Hello, everyone. Hope you all are having a great holiday and a happy Christmas with your friends and family. I want to share with you today a video on the Plunge protection team. Now, a quick background is that over the weekend on Sunday, Secretary Steve Mnuchin, he had a call with the CEOs of the nation's 6 largest banks just to confirm with them that they had ample liquidity on their balance sheet so that they could lend out to consumers and also business markets. Now, one thing in there was that Steve will be having a call with these members. And this whole video, I promise you, I'll dive deeper into who exactly is the Plunge protection team and what exactly is their purpose. Now, before I dive into that, I want to show you a table here that is highlighting the worst Q4 performance in the S&P history. As you can see here in 2018, Q4, the S&P has returned about negative 19%. And this is not a good record to be on at all. During the Great Depression, the Q4 S&P return is negative 29%. So these are very vicious numbers. I also want to share with you, currently right now, the CNBC is showing that the futures market is pricing in for the Dow and the S&P and also NASDAQ to be about negative 0.9% lower during tomorrow's open. And this is on Christmas Day where people are spending time with the family. The last thing they're going to be checking is probably the stock market. But this video is just to show you that the market is continuing to get hammered. The NASDAQ is negative 23% off the all-time high. The S&P just entered bear market territory on Monday at negative 20% off the high. So could the Plunge protection team actually come in to save us? Let's dive in for the truth. So one thing you should know is that the Plunge protection team, they were formed after the Black Monday stock market crash in 1987. So very, very long time ago. And the purpose of this Plunge protection team is to make sure that Wall Street and Washington are up to date on the language that they're putting out there on financial market issues. They want to make sure that they're communicating to the public critical issues, probably about like liquidity or lending to consumers, just to make sure that the public market is calm. And the last time the Plunge protection team actually came in to actually play a role was during the 2008 financial crisis. And this is actually leading to some speculation from investors that we might actually have a liquidity issue at hand if we're calling in the Plunge protection team now. So as you can see here from this Reuters article, Washington, we do have a Plunge protection team, and the purpose of this was that the President Ronald Reagan, he created this group as a way to really keep the financial markets operating smoothly, especially during a financial crisis. And this team is able to issue recommendations for banking regulations and also to lending. I think this will be extremely important as we get into 2019 and the Fed continues to tighten up. This team actually might play a very important role in propping up the stock market, and I'll promise you I'll get into that as well. Now, here is why is the group meeting now? So yeah, I mean, it's fair, right? Like, even though the S&P, NASDAQ, and the Dow are down about negative 20%, we're not really in a recession yet. But I think Secretary Steve Mnuchin, he's taking this as a precaution just to make sure that in the case we actually go much lower, maybe negative 15, negative 20% lower, that these very key people will have the proper information to distill out to the public. So I think this is more of just preparing for when we actually do get into a troubled economy. Now, who else will be at the meeting? Going back to this picture that I made for you guys here, we have the Commodities Future Trading Commission. This is Christopher. You'll also have the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, and the SEC Chairman, Jay Clayton. They will be joining the call with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. And really, I think, if you have to wonder, like, why are the markets so choppy as of late, it mainly is because the sugar rush from the tax cut stimulus is fading away. And the Federal Reserve, because we have low unemployment, the Fed will want to continue making sure that interest rates go up and to continue with their quantitative tightening program. Now, here's something that's actually very interesting, specifically talking about what the Plunge Protection Team will do. As you might remember, earlier this year in February, the Dow experienced a very significant drop. We're talking about 1,000+ point drop, which was the largest point decline in history. A lot of people were freaking out. And if you might even remember, out of nowhere, that large decline of negative 1,000 actually got cut in half in just one day. Now, what some people are speculating here, especially this person named Robert Heller, who is the former governor of the Federal Reserve, he talked about how he has suspicion on this Plunge Protection Team. He talked about how the Federal Reserve purchased stock index future contracts to stop a market crash. Now just think about that for a second. This person, who used to be the former governor of the Federal Reserve, came out talking about this. He's saying that the Federal Reserve rigs the bond market through security purchases. And that's something that's very interesting that you should, that you kind of get the gears turning in the back of your head. Now, I'm going to show you exactly a chart that kind of shows you, what exactly is happening here. So here's the Dow. It just kept going down, and out of nowhere, you get the futures market buying up. So that's actually a very interesting thing to see. And similarly, it is noted that during the financial crisis of 2008, there were phone calls between the Treasury Secretary, Hank Paulson, and also Wall Street actors on that day. So very interesting. And the theory here is that the Plunge Protection Team, they manipulate the market by executing trades on several exchanges, and that they work with big banks like Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley, and they report that to the president. So just some very interesting things to keep in mind as we continue to see more downside. And it'll be interesting to see how the market bounces back from this. So, if you thought this video was helpful, please provide a like. Feel free to subscribe for more future finance videos like this. I enjoy making them. I want to continue improving and making more of them for my viewers. If you put a comment, I'll respond back. I enjoy communicating with my audience as well. So thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. Have a great Christmas day. And we'll see what happens with the Plunge Protection Team. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night. Bye.